All right, everybody, welcome back to the Good Old Hockey Podcast. This is episode number 43. We are just about, a little under a month left until the NHL season's back. Me and Gally are back after some time away this off season. Um, and we got some fun updates, especially in Gally's life. If you listen to the last episode, you know what's going on. If you didn't, we'll give you the update there. But yeah, we've got some exciting stuff coming up. We're going to preview the Western Conference and make some predictions for who's going to be the winner of the conference. But before we get into that, Gally, let me hear it. How's life going in Bloomington, Illinois?
Dude, it's good. Just got out here about a week ago. I'm actually in my apartment right now and I'm standing. I don't really have too much of a chair or anything. I'm waiting for my girlfriend to get out here and bring some of the furniture and get furnished in here. But yeah, man, things are going good. Things are really, really ramping up to the season. Very,
Yeah,
very fast paced one. But yeah, man, I mean, lots in the work right now till the beginning of the season. I don't think I knew how much there was stuff to be done
yeah,
before the beginning of the season, especially the team starting out. And it's gonna be a lot of hard work leading up to October 19th is our first regular season game. But
nice.
yeah, man, we're cruising along. We're getting stuff done, and I'm excited. It's gonna be a really good show, and I'm excited to just to be a part of it all.
Yeah,
I know there's it's crazy to start a brand new ECHL team and have a limited amount of time to do so. So
yeah. No, that's fair. And also, like, I can't even imagine how much just goes on to that whole process. But I did see the uniforms are pretty sick for that team. So I
yeah,
like yeah,
yeah. So
you
we
have to
just
wear it
released our uniforms, both the home and away, last Thursday, and yeah, we got red jerseys and white jerseys. We're actually going to switch off halfway through the season for which ones we're going to be wearing home and away. So that's exciting. And then yeah, man. I mean, there's so much stuff coming up. We do have a preseason game where, I mean, hockey's came to Bloomington, Illinois before, so we're not the first team to be here, but
Yeah,
there's a pretty big contract that the team signed with the arena, and I mean, they're definitely going to be here for the long term. So I'm excited for it. It's a really cool opportunity, and there's so many people that are really putting their all into making sure this team gets off the ground. Um, and yeah, it's hard to even explain how much. I mean, I don't want to bore you, but
yeah,
there's so much to do before so many people to be hired.
yeah,
Um, just in terms, I mean, we've got our front office hammered out and most of our players signed.
yeah,
Um, Obviously, training camp and being like affiliated with the Rangers, a lot of players are going to come down to us. So we don't know what that opening night roster looks like yet.
yeah.
But our front office is basically all figured out. But I mean, there's so many game day positions that still need to be, filled. So that's
I'm
a
sure.
bulk of a lot of work I do up to the season, as well as
Yeah,
graphic creation and all sorts of stuff. So I mean, it's
yeah,
it's really fun. It's high speed, but it's kind of like you don't have any dead time. You have to literally be doing stuff all day, and
yeah.
not enough time in one day to truly make a
Do
difference.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah, man, it's just you got to take each day at a time and take the wins from it. So I don't know.
yeah,
Life is good though. I miss Boise a lot. Miss my girlfriend. Miss you guys and all my
yeah.
friends. I mean, Bloomington's maybe not the best compared to Boise,
Awesome.
Idaho. Boise, Idaho, you kind of take it for
Yeah.
granted as you leave. You realize how amazing that place is. But yeah, I'll be visiting a lot, and
Oh yeah.
um, it's not too expensive of a flight from Chicago to there, which is actually only a 2-hour train ride from here, which is really awesome.
Oh,
So,
that's good. Yeah, are you gonna go to? Because I know the Winter Classic's in Chicago this year. Do you have any?
dude, I didn't even think of that. I mean, that would
Yeah,
be lights out. I mean, I would absolutely love to. I'm sure tickets
yeah,
are decently expensive, but like, dude, I would love to do that. Especially, I feel like a winter classic at a baseball stadium is so much better than like a football
yeah.
stadium.
Football, yeah.
But
I feel like there's better angles there out of baseball.
yeah, for sure. I feel like it's a smaller field, maybe not the outfield, but like at least where they're gonna put the ice,
Yeah,
it's gonna be like closer to everything compared to like
yeah,
a football stadium, at least.
yeah. I remember seeing like clips from the Winter Classic in Seattle, how they had I feel like it was a pretty decent setup, or, like, you could see from pretty much anywhere, which is important. 'Cause I went to the one in San Jose at Levi's Stadium where the Niners play for the Sharks one, and it was tough, like, if you're down on the if you're, like for a football game, if you're close, like, you can't see anything that's going on the ice, like, you just see their top halves of their body going around, so, yeah, no, it should be cool out there, but, um, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a good time. There's so much stuff. I'm busier than I think I've ever been in my life. So
Yeah,
it's fun and it's really cool to be back in sports and just doing something that I
yeah,
love and am passionate about. It's awesome.
mhm,
Being around hockey is the best, dude.
yeah, no, totally, that's cool, dude. Um, well, yeah, I think
Yeah, how's
I
things going
can't
in
think of
Boise,
much.
dude?
It's
How
doing
was
good.
Eugene?
Eugene was fun, I forgot about that. We last weekend, some of the boys went to Eugene to watch Boise State play Oregon. Fortunately, they did not get the dub, but it was a close game and honestly a good resume item. Eugene is an interesting place. If any of you guys that are listening live there, apologize for what I'm about to say, but it's not the best. Um, I could never see myself living there. Getting out of the stadium was a pain in the ass, which makes sense. I mean, it fits a lot of people there. Um, and I feel like we have it again very luxurious in Boise where, our stadium's still pretty big. It fits, 40,000 people in that stadium. But once you get outside of Boise State, like once you get out of the arena, you can just walk because it's a big parking lot, right? In Eugene, there's like all these trails you have to like. It was just kind of a pain in the ass. But it was a good time. It was good to be with everyone, and we had a good time. Um, wasn't super expensive either. I mean, it's a college town, so we hit up a bunch of the bars there. Um, Surprisingly, a lot of Boise State Bronco fans were in the area, and they had a good time. So
That's
it was a good
awesome.
game
I love to
at the
hear
end
that
of
we're
the day.
traveling.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I had heard this is on Twitter, so I don't know how true this is, but I've heard people saying that there was, like, a lot of more than normal for a team that far. Like, Oregon State, you're probably gonna get a lot of away fans, but
Interesting.
a team that's from Boise, Idaho, like, they said there's a good amount of travelers, and I could see, like, specks of blue throughout the stadium. We were sitting in the Boise State section, but, um, we could see specks of blue out in the stadium, so it was cool to see, but, um, other than that, though, I haven't really been doing much. We launched I don't know if we've recorded since then, but we launched our website, and we have merchandise, Good Old Hockey Podcast merchandise ourselves. So go check that out, everyone. It's in the description down below, settledown.store. Visit that, go get a t-shirt, use the code GOHP15. You'll get 15% off your shirt. Um, we've got some Sharks themed shirts and Flames themed shirts for, me and Gally. Or if you just want a plain old Good Old Hockey Podcast shirt, go there. But that's the plug there, for the website, and other than that, nothing really crazy. But I will transition this to a little bit sadder of a topic, and that is Mr. Johnny Hockey. Um, Obviously, the devastating news that, you know, I first off, like, it was really shitty how it was all played out on Twitter, and people were breaking news prematurely when, I think they're just trying to get to the what's it called? They're trying to get the news out first, but it's like with stuff like this, I feel like the family deserves to know first. And if you're breaking this at 10 p.m. at night, our time, which is midnight over on the East Coast, just all sort of messed up. But
Yeah.
um, obviously Gally, one of your favorite players, if not your favorite player for the Flames. And we're dedicating this episode to Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau. Um, and yeah, do you have any words for Johnny Hockey?
Yeah, man. Too many words, honestly. I mean, he
Yeah,
was one of the biggest reasons I really, really just fell in love with the Flames. I mean, I feel like when I first got into hockey, I was a huge Penguins fan. I mean, dude, I was a kindergarten first grader and seeing Sid Crosby. Uh,
yeah,
that was pretty incredible. I just gravitated towards that, and
yeah,
they won the Stanley Cup in 2009, and that was just really cool things. And then I went to Calgary for a few tournaments, watched the Flames, fell in love with the Flames too. um, just going to their games. And but I mean, it was kind of a dead area after Ginla left, especially I want to say in 2012 or 2013. That's the season he left, that walkout year. There's kind of a big void for, I guess you could say, a superstar, someone to kind of carry ship. And Monahan came in, he was a really big deal for a while. And then, obviously Johnny Hockey and Kachuk, but I mean, Johnny Hockey, especially, I mean, what he did, first of all, I mean, probably one of the biggest steals ever in the NHL draft history, him
Oh, yeah.
going in the fourth round, and then becoming a, 100-point player multiple times throughout his career. Pretty incredible. I want to say he finished third in the MVP voting a few seasons back. So for a fourth rounder to do that, and especially someone that was always told his whole life he was too small, pretty incredible.
Yeah.
He did a lot of really amazing stuff at Boston College, and I remember just following him as a Flames fan. I mean, diehard Flames fan, watching him at Boston College. And I'm like, dude, this guy could, if he could translate it to the NHL, I mean, this guy's going to be a superstar. Ends
Yeah.
up doing it his rookie year. I think he was also a finalist for the Calder Trophy. Had a lights out rookie year, brought the Flames back to the playoffs. Him and Monahan and Yuri Vugler and Giordano. And I mean, that first season he was in Calgary, I think he became a fan favorite of everyone. He really just,
Yeah.
took that city by storm. And, he was one of the biggest reasons I really just follow the Flames so heavily. I mean, I definitely followed them before, but once he came on, I mean, we were winning. There's a
Yeah.
reason to watch the games. I mean, even the most boring games, sometimes he would do some straight up magician stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think he's one of the most talented players when it comes to like pure skill level, and his hands were amazing. He was such a good playmaker. He could score clutch goals. He was always scoring clutch goals. But not only that, I mean, he was a kind of a smaller, goofy guy, he wasn't like the most picturesque professional
Yeah.
athlete. And, I know, towards his end of his career in Calgary, he was, looked up to as the best player on the team for sure. I mean, I think Kachuk still wasn't what he is now,
Yeah.
when he was with the Flames, because, there's really good players such as, Gaudreau, Lindholm,
Yeah.
Monahan, that were kind of filling those gaps. And Kachuk kind of got overshadowed in a way, but I mean, Gaudreau like hands down I mean, what a player to
Yeah.
watch. I mean, I witnessed a goal like one time they were playing the Penguins in the Dome, and it was actually a shootout, win for the Flames. But I remember seeing this goal in the third period. He went coast to coast, dangled like two players, then wrapped it around on Fleury. And it was like probably the sickest goal I've ever seen
Yeah.
since. I've seen it on a lot of his highlight reels, and it's been surfacing a lot recently. But it's pretty cool. Like I was a part of to see that. And I also saw like his first season, even his rookie year, like he scored this like one crazy goal game 3 against the Anaheim Ducks. I saw it there, and game time goal went to overtimes and Flames won. So I mean, Johnny Hockey was so clutch.
Yeah.
I know players loved playing with him. He was a fun go lucky guy, and obviously it was heartbreaking when he left the Flames. And I know I was pretty upset about it, but I mean that's water under the bridge now. It's
Yeah.
I think all Flames kind of believe that. I think the Flames should retire his number. I mean, you see how much
Oh,
he
yeah.
means to the organization. And
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting the
after
chills right now, but the
yeah,
show out that they had for him at that memorial they had was insane.
yeah.
So
But I think it also just speaks a lot about the hockey community.
yeah.
I mean, not saying other sports communities are as impactful, but I mean, just the overwhelming amount of support from all the teams. And I
Yeah.
think that I wouldn't be surprised if there's at least a helmet sticker
Oh, yeah.
on, every
Yeah.
NHL team for this year. I think the Flames are going to retire the number. I wouldn't be surprised if Columbus does it too. Boston College is probably going to retire
Oh,
his
yeah.
number. I mean, there's going to be a lot of stuff, but yeah, man. I mean, it's heartbreaking how it all went down. And I mean, both Matthew Gaudreau too. I mean, I didn't even get into
Yeah.
him. He played
Yeah.
with the Flames organization for a little bit. It's kind of overshadowed by his brother. Obviously, his
Yeah.
brother was
Yeah.
insanely
Johnny Hockey.
wicked
Yeah.
good at hockey. But yeah, I mean, both of them. I mean, good hockey players. Great fathers too. And
Yeah,
it's pretty heartbreaking to I mean, I'm still kinda in shell shock about it all, and,
yeah,
um, I mean, yeah, I mean, I it's horrible, especially the way it went down, and yeah, man, I mean, we lost him way too soon, and I
yeah.
don't know, it's heartbreaking, honestly, I mean,
It
what
really
a
is. It sucks so
I
bad
don't know what to
with
even say about it, you know?
everything yeah, everything that happened with it too. I mean, for those of you that don't know, like, the backstory of it is just heartbreaking with the guy who was drinking and driving. Like, it's just something that I feel like everyone has known for a very long time that if you have too much to drink, don't drive. Get an Uber. It's worth the 20 bucks, however much you spend on an Uber. It's worth all the trouble versus, what is happening and what has happened to not only this guy and what his life is fucked up, but think about all the other lives that he's affected. And, it's just something that, obviously people make mistakes and stuff happens in life, but there's some things you can never get back. So it really, yeah, it's just heartbreaking. And, I feel for anyone that was really close to him,
Yeah,
even
for
Kevin
real.
Hayes. I mean, that's one of his best friends, and Kevin Hayes lost his brother to an overdose. So I just,
Yeah.
it just that morning after I like went to bed and I was like, I'm really hoping that this is just some stupid rumor that's floating around. And then I woke up at like 8 to my phone going off and I was like, damn, fucking happened.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's crazy, I feel bad for his family especially, I know
yeah,
both his parents, Guy and Jane Gaudreau were really, really supportive of the kids, they would go
yeah,
to Flames games all the time, and,
yeah.
I know Meredith, his wife, I think they had a couple kids, and yeah,
She's
man, it's
pregnant
heartbreaking,
right now.
and, I hope obviously they're able to carry on their legacy, I hope their kids feel
Yeah,
this energy, I hope we see it,
yeah,
another little Gaudreau skating around and
yeah,
dangling like his father did, I mean, he's gonna have a lot of people on his side growing up, and I just know he's gonna play hockey for sure.
yeah.
I know
Oh yeah,
Gaudreau's
yeah.
looking over him in heaven, and yeah, man, I mean, I'm sure Gaudreau's having a good time up there with all the legends,
Oh
of
yeah,
hockey, playing hockey up
yeah.
there, and, I mean, yeah, it's heartbreaking though, I mean, what an American hockey legend. I mean,
Yeah,
truly, I
too.
think he is one of the best American hockey players, even
Yep.
though, he only played in the league for what, I wanna say
Yeah,
10 years?
his career got cut short. I mean, he's only
Yeah,
31
but I
and
mean, I think he's one of the best
yeah,
players, I mean, skill-wise, and I think he'd be up there, I'd say at least in the top 10 in points for American players. I don't know what he's exactly right now. I'd say he's
yeah,
at least in the top 20.
yeah,
Um, but I mean, yeah, he's one of the best playmakers, one of the best danglers, and just an all around great guy. Great, great, excellent guy, great
yeah.
player. Just that classic small hockey player. I feel like he kind of trailblazed that
Oh,
mentality
yeah.
for a lot of people. I mean,
Mhm.
I know Marty St. Louis is one of them, and
Yeah. The
lots
way
of
that
lots of smaller players before him.
St.
But
Louis, though, played a lot different. Like, Johnny Hockey just had the skill and the speed that I mean, frankly, Connor Bedard, you can make a case for Patrick Kane too, but even someone like Cole Caulfield changing his number this year to 13, which is awesome.
yeah,
He used to wear 13 before because of Johnny like, he looked up to Johnny Hockey, Johnny Gaudreau, and he is now wearing number 13, so I think that's awesome, but yeah, so this episode goes out to, honestly, anyone in the Gaudreau family, anyone of his friends, family, anyone, that's what this episode's about, but we're gonna get into the Western Conference preview. Um, turn away from the, heartbreak, we're gonna look at it with a positive note that Johnny Hockey's looking down on this NHL season this year and is blessing us with a great year. So,
yeah,
but
man.
we're gonna do
R.I.P.
yeah,
R.I.P. Johnny Hockey breaks my
RIP
heart. I mean, he was
does.
favorite player. So
Yeah. We're gonna go through each team in the Western Conference and break down some notable additions and any losses if they had any. Some teams really didn't do jack shit, for lack of a better term, this offseason. But up first, we're gonna go in alphabetical order. If I did it right, I think I did. But Anaheim Ducks up first. From what I found, they had a defenseman, Brian Dumoulin, and Robbie Fabry. Um, I think the Ducks also, you could say these are the only two names, but they also got Cutter Gauthier coming up this year, which I forgot to write down. Um,
mm,
he wasn't an off-season signing, but he's coming in this year. And although based off those 2 names there, I'm not gonna give them like a big, they're gonna be great this year, but they definitely have some potential to be a little bit better than last year, but I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the Ducks are kind of an interesting team, and I feel like there's like a lot of teams right now that have like good talent on paper, and like maybe some players that have shined really hard some season. Like I feel like Zegras is like a perfect example of that, who's kind of coming off of an off year.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, even the top nine for Anaheim does look decent. Uh, I feel like I don't think they're like completely out of the playoff picture. I feel like they're almost like in the same boat as like maybe like the Flames right now, just because I mean their top nine's not bad. I mean, I think Leo Carlson, he had an injury last year. I think he's going to have a
Yeah.
really good year this year. I mean, they still got Troy Terry. You're gonna have Cutter Gauthier. I think he's gonna have a really good rookie year. They also have Mason McTavish, Zegras, Frank Vitrolero,
Yeah.
Ryan Strome. I think they lack pretty hard on the defensive side, and I think that's what's gonna end up biting them in the butt this year. But like, I mean, for sure, I'd say their forward group is looking really good in depth. So if they can get some, scoring there and then maybe some defense, I mean, at least from the goaltending, either Gibson or Lucas Dostal, which Dostal is looking really good as well. I think they might have a shot for like a wild card spot. I don't think they're really a
Mhm.
lock in the Pacific.
Yeah.
Um, but regardless, like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like I'm gonna change their spot probably. I don't know. The Pacific's kind of hard for me, but like I'd say Anaheim finishes like sixth in the Pacific. Honestly,
Okay. Do you think this team got better or worse than last year?
I think they got better just with the Gautier signing. Uh,
Yeah,
I
I
think that's
agree.
a huge signing for them. It is definitely tough losing Drysdale because I think he's a really good defenseman. Also, he's
Yeah.
NHL ready right now, which I think Gautier might not be as much. He might spend a year in the minors, but ultimately, like I feel like Gautier, I don't know. I mean, that trade's going to be analyzed in a few years, and we'll see who wins it. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I have Anaheim finishing sixth. Um, so I think that they got better just with that Gautier signing. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough with any of these. I mean, I really think like any of these rebuilding teams, it's hard to say that they got worse because all these players are developing. So yeah, I'm gonna give them better. But I don't know how much better than they're like I don't know how much better they're gonna be, really. But next team is your favorite, Calgary Flames. Um I have 2 names written down here as some notable, but if you can think of any off the dome, feel free to add to this list. But
Yeah,
Anthony Mantha and Dustin Wolf's gonna be starting some more as well with that trade for Markstrom. Um, I mean, I think last year we kinda talked about this off camera, but I think the Flames honestly do have a chance to maybe slip into that wild card spot. Um,
yeah.
I think some pieces need to fall together correctly, and everything needs to go smoothly for that to happen, but it's definitely a possibility. But were there any other names that I missed that Calgary has added?
Yeah, and I feel like just with especially at the Western Conference, like I feel like the Eastern Conference last year, the playoff push, there's like I think six teams in contention for like that last wild card spot or something, like at a very late point of the season.
Yep.
I feel like that's gonna possibly happen in the Western Conference. I feel like a lot of these teams are they're gonna win enough to still be in contention, but not just completely tank. Um
Yeah.
I know Mantha was an addition. I mean, I mean, Kevin Ball was also an addition in the
Yep.
Markstrom trade. Yeah, they got a lot of draft picks. Jake Bean was another addition on the defensive side of things. Um, so I think those players, they're going to play a part in the decor. I hope Kevin Ball turns into something because he's got a decent amount of potential. He's humongous. I want to say he's like 6'4", 6'5". Um, but, I think this is a very interesting spot for the Flames this year because and then also, I mean, on defense, they have Brustewicz and also Perek, Etienne, Morin. I think the Flames have
Was Perek playing this
honestly,
year, though?
it's kind of up in the air. I mean, I think if he has a really good camp, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the opening night roster just to kind
Okay.
of get that like glimpse of what he is like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's already done basically everything in the
Yeah, I think you
OHL. I
start
mean,
him. Yeah.
and we'll see. I mean, I think that he could definitely crack the opening night roster. Um, but they are kind of one of those teams like if they don't do well by the trade deadline, if they don't even have a chance, I think they're going to start trading Backlund. I think they're going to trade Rasmus Anderson. I think they're going to start tearing a lot of pieces out. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to trade Kadri at some point. But I mean, just on paper, I mean, let's hope Huberdeau has a bounce back year. That would be amazing if he did.
Yeah. I think he
Uh,
needs that.
but I mean, just on paper, I mean, Huberdeau, Backlund, Coleman. I mean, that's kind of a line. Connor Zary also could have another really good year. He was quiet last year because of an injury. Igor Sharangovich, I think he's going to have another great year.
Mhm.
Andrei Kuzmenko, I think he's going to have a good year as well. Pospisil. So there's a lot. I mean, they have a young core right now. Um, like I said, they're kind of in a similar way as the Ducks. Lots of young prospects. But something that intrigues me the most is like their goalie situation. And I hope Dustin Wolf can break into the NHL and really,
Yeah.
show his strengths that he has at every single other level of
Yeah.
hockey. That would be amazing. And I think I have pretty good confidence that he will. But I mean, you also got like Devin Cooley in there, who's a really good goalie as well, and also
True.
Dan
Yeah.
Vladar. So I mean, and GM's even said that that is wide open for all, like for goalies right now. That's completely wide open
Yeah.
for who's going to be the starting goalie. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Flames this year. I have them just being loyal to them. I have them sneaking in at fourth in the Pacific and getting that last wild card spot. I think Calgary is going to be in that conversation for that last wild
Yeah.
card spot. I think we're going to be mediocre throughout the whole year, and we're not really going to understand what this team is. But hey, man, I mean, I got to be rooting for my team to make the playoffs. I think if we don't see the playoffs though, then like tank for Gavin McKenna, please.
Yeah.
That's probably the first time you're going to hear this for the upcoming season. Tank for Gavin McKenna. But
Yeah.
yeah, man. I mean, we'll see how the first like quarter of the season goes. I think if they are doing well, oh, it might start getting kind of ugly in Calgary. A lot of people getting
Yeah.
traded, but I don't know. I think they got better just over the off season though. Just
I
because
do too.
honestly, I'd say they got worse on paper, but I think it's better from my perspective as a Flames fan because we do have
That's a good point.
spots on the roster open
Yeah.
for these younger players that have been kind of sheltered by maybe some of these older players that just got traded. So
Yeah, I'll ride you with that. I think that, like you said, I think on paper it doesn't look as good. But if you look at the overall outlook for the Flames and where they were last year versus now, I think they're in a much better spot. So I think on paper worse, but overall, I think they're in a good spot.
yeah, where do you have that?
Um, I think I had them at 5 in the
Okay.
Pacific. I don't think they cracked that wild card spot. Like I said, everything needs to fall in place. So I'm not trying to be an ass, but that's just what I think. Um,
Yeah.
but
So
for the next team,
a
yeah,
lot of things have to go right for the Flames to do good this year.
yeah, yeah. For the next team is another C team, Chicago Blackhawks. Um, Obviously at the draft they got the second spot, passed up on Ivan Demidov, which I honestly think is a big mistake for them. But I understand they needed a defenseman. They went
Interesting.
with Artyom Levshinov and got him, which I think that's a good addition for them to get. They have their cornerstone in Connor Bedard, but the scary thing for me for them is that he was like the start of their rebuild, whereas some of these rebuilding teams are like currently rebuilding and waiting for that final piece. Um, so we'll see how it leads out for them. But they did add some good. I think a good addition is Tyler Bertuzzi for them. Um, he's kind of been shown that he's this second, third line center winger, um, floating around the league and helping teams out when they can. I think he's a good addition for this Blackhawks team. He's a great guy with grit. and can stick up for Connor Bedard like no one was able to last year for him. Also Teuvo Teravainen and Alec Martinez as well, which are I don't think amazing additions to this team. So I don't know, but before I give my better or worse, what do you think about these additions?
I think it made the Hawks a lot better. I don't know if they're necessarily a playoff team yet. I don't think they're even close to contender. Um, but I do think that they really sucked on defense last year. So those additions, especially like Martinez and TJ Brody's another addition they had.
Mhm.
Those are going to add some veteran presence to their decor. At least help Mrazek, which I'm not the most confident on Mrazek
Yeah,
being good for the Hawks either. But I mean that Bertuzzi, Bedard, Teravainen line, I feel like that might be their first line, and that's going to be. I
yeah,
think that's going to be a good line. I think they're going to score a lot. I mean, even slotted Taylor Hall as well. Um,
true.
he could definitely do some work because he was out with an injury like all last year, but I think that they got better. Uh, but I still don't see them. I just feel like their defense is just still not there until Levshunov like really gets steps into, plain NHL speed. I
Yeah,
think there's just still going to struggle on that defense and especially that goaltending, especially in a division like the Central. Like, I think that they're going to be finishing bottom two of their division. I'm going to put them above last place because I think they just got a little bit better this year. And who knows,
yeah.
maybe we see Levshunov opening night roster. I'm not totally sure. Have you heard if he's going back to college or?
I I haven't heard anything about where he's going to be at come October 10th, but it's really tough to say. Um, I honestly couldn't tell you whether or not. Also, if he's going to make an impact directly to that team. I do think though that they did get better. Obviously, as a team that finished bottom two, there's not much room to go than up when you're at the bottom. So I think
Yeah.
overall they definitely got better. But like you said, they're not going to be a playoff contending team for next, honestly, 4 years. Maybe. I mean, it really depends on the outlook of everything can change because I thought the Sharks were a long way out from playoffs, and now my opinion's changed. But um, yeah, so I think the Hawks are better, and I have them finishing in the Central, still at the eighth though. I don't think they're going to move up that much. I think they're still bottom of the Central this
Interesting.
upcoming
Okay.
season. What about you?
Like I said, I have him just one spot, so I have him seven,
Okay,
one spot above last. I feel like
got it.
they're going to be just a little bit better than a team that recently relocated.
Okay, got it. All right. Next
Hint,
team
hint.
is Colorado. Yeah, hint, hint. Colorado Avalanche. They, looking at their transactions over the offseason, did not really add a whole lot, but it's tough to say. I mean, they're a good team. I think they not got unlucky, but they just weren't ready for the playoffs last year. I honestly don't know what was going on in that room. I mean, they have a star-studded roster. I guess who is it that's been out for injury? Landeskog.
Landeskog, yeah.
Yeah, so he's been out for a while. I don't know if he's planning on returning this year, but they did re-sign Jonathan Drouin. So again, I don't know that I can really give this team a better or worse. We can kind of go quick through this team because I don't feel like there's a whole lot to talk about. They
Yeah.
have all the pieces.
I
They just need to figure it out.
I think re-signing Duran is a big re-signing, and then I also just think if I mean I've heard reports that he is going to be coming back, Landeskog, and we'll see what type of player he is when he comes back. But
That too. Yeah.
I think just he comes back, he's going to be making that team that much better.
Yeah.
Um, I think the Avs have a very, very solid team. I mean, they have the reigning MVP and then Kale McCarr,
Yeah.
um, who was a Norris finalist. Correct? Who won the Norris again? Why am I blinking on that already?
Quinn. Quinn Hughes did.
Quinn, yes. Duh.
We were
But
there.
I do think, yeah, I do think, Colorado is going to be really good.
Yeah.
Per usual, I do see them, Gorgiev, I think he's going to take a little bit more of a step this year. I think he was shaky at points, but it was his first year in Colorado last year. So I think he's a little bit more settled in. Um, but yeah, I'd say they're just better as long as they can get Landeskog. But honestly, I see the Avs having a really good year, especially once they get Landeskog back. And I could see them honestly taking the Central. They were that close to taking the Central last year. I want to say 1 point off from taking the
Yeah.
Central. I think they finished second. But I do think this year they actually succeed and they actually win the Central. So that's my
Yeah.
prediction. I don't know. What do you think?
I have the same thing. I think that they're gonna win the Central
Okay.
this year. I mean, it was a close race between Dallas and them last year anyways. And like you said, I mean, they're a great team. They've got Cale Makar, like I said, they've got all the pieces. I think Georgiev is a little bit of a question mark, but he's still good enough that he won them a Stanley Cup, so it's not like he's bad.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so I think it's just a matter of figuring it out and do the stars align for them? And that leads us into our next team, the Dallas Stars. Look at that, perfect. Um, Dallas Stars, their additions this last year. Well, first off, they lost Joe Pavelski, retired, favorite player right there. Um, Lost him and Ryan Suter. I mean, I think Pavelski was definitely a big presence in that locker room for that team. Obviously, being an assistant captain, um, wasn't like putting up. I mean, okay, let me rephrase that. He's putting up amazing stats for a 39-year-old in the NHL last year. Um,
Yeah.
but it's not like it's a, they're not replacing an 80 to 100 point player. But nonetheless, still a big loss. But they did get Matt Dumba and Ilya Labushkin. But I don't know. I don't know. What do you think about this team? Do you think they've gotten better or worse?
I think they just got worse because they lost Pavelski and Sear. I think that's a huge part of their locker room because outside of Ben and Sagan, they're pretty young,
Yeah.
especially with Jason Robertson, Mason Marshman, Rube Hintz, Wyatt Johnson.
Yeah.
Um, I do think they just got a little less good, but I just a little bit. I don't think it's
Yeah.
like a drastic change. I think Labushkin and Dumba are going to be actually pretty good ads, and add that veteran presence to their team, they might have lost. I Yeah, I just kind of think they maybe take a little bit step back, but I do still see them getting a division spot. I have them finishing at number 3 in the Central. I think it's going to be a very competitive year though in the Central. But I do think that they'll make the playoffs, and I think that there'll be a competitive team in the playoffs. I mean, they still have one of the best goalies in the league. Jason Robertson's still going to be going crazy. I think Wyatt
Yeah.
Johnston's going to have a really, really good year. You got Sagan and Ben, and Heiskanen is also another beast who I think he's going to have a really good year. I feel like Heiskanen might even be a sleeper for like the Norris Trophy. But yeah, man, I think the Stars are still going to be good, but they did just lose a little bit from their playoff run from this past season. Where do you
Yeah.
have them
I
though?
agree. I have them finishing second in the Central. Let me double check that. Yes, I have them finishing second in the Central. I think they're still a good team, and they lost a little bit of, you know, presence in the locker room, but it's still a great team, and they still have a lot of, frankly, really good young pieces, which is surprising because I feel like the Stars have been good for the last 10 years. It seems like they've never really fallen out, but they've just drafted really well. Um, so it's hard to say with a lot of these teams to say. I know there's some teams on here that I'm going to say are flat out worse. But like you said, it's a little drastic of a bump. It's nothing super crazy. They're
Yeah.
still a good team. And again, those players are developing, so it's not like they're getting horrible. Where do you have them finishing?
So I have them finishing third in the Central.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to be. I think that they're going to go on some really good runs this year. I think they might hover on that third and then wild card spot, and then like towards the end of the season, I can just see them really locking that third or second spot. And I feel like they might swap back and forth for that second and third spot. I don't really see them going back to back winning the division though. I just feel like that
Yeah.
they had a really, really good year last year, and it's just a little bit unrealistic for that to go back to back. But yeah, I mean, that's where I got him. You have him at second, you said?
Yes.
Nice.
Yep, I got them second. And yeah. All right, up next, we've got the Edmonton Oilers, Gally, our favorite team, the team that loves us on Instagram. They did get Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson this offseason. Some of the most notable names that they added. Also signing recently Leon Draisaitl again, or re-signing him.
Yeah, that's
Um,
huge.
I think it's huge, and I think that means that Connor McDavid is going to stay in Edmonton. Um, and both of those, Skinner and Arvidsson, they both signed for 7 million between the both of them. Obviously, Jeff Skinner had like an $8 million contract with the Buffalo Sabres. Contract was pretty tough for them. They let him go, but the Edmonton Oilers snagged him up. And honestly, he's going to have a Zach Hyman year. I'm predicting it right now. Jeff Skinner is going to have 50 goals, and only because he's playing on a line with Connor McDavid. There's
Yeah,
no other reason. And no offense to Jeff Skinner here. It's just that when you play with Connor McDavid, you're going to be a 50 goal scorer, just like we've seen. Uh,
I mean, you were
Zach
Drysdale
Hyman.
even, if he played with Drysdale
Yeah,
even
that
too.
too.
I
Yeah,
mean, I think that Drysdale and McDavid are gonna be separated, at least off of the power play.
yeah,
Uh, but, playing with Drysdale or McDavid, I think either one of those players are gonna be the best team on any team. They're some of the 2 of the best players in the whole world right now, probably
yeah,
top 5, you could argue. But yeah, man, I mean, Jeff Skinner is gonna be lights out. I think Arvidsson is a very low key signing.
yeah.
I mean, I can't believe that I wanna say Jeff Skinner was like, what, a 3 or $4 million deal, I wanna say?
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, like, that's ridiculous they got him at that
it's
rate,
kinda
especially, I
yeah,
mean, he's a 30-goal scorer many times in his career, and, it's gonna be interesting. I feel like he might be like the Zach Hyman of this year.
yeah.
He might be the one to be going crazy and
Or
scoring 50 goals.
will he though? He has this curse on him that the team, whatever team he joins, just does not make the play. He's never played a playoff game in his
Yeah,
31 year
dude,
old
that's
life. He's never
nuts.
played a playoff game. And if the Edmonton Oilers don't make the playoffs this year, get rid of Jeff Skinner immediately because he's a curse. Immediately. So we'll see. But do you think this team got better or worse?
I think this team definitely got better. I mean, coming off of a Stanley Cup final run, adding Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner, like you said, for a whopping $7 million total, that's
Yeah.
insane. They definitely boosted their forward depth, especially after losing Broberg and
Yeah.
Holloway, which Broberg is on defense, but that was definitely kind of a tough blow. And the fact that they were able to pick those pieces back up, I think it'll be good. I think just the one thing that's still a question mark for me is just their goaltending. I feel like I had that question mark last year. I feel like people did even during the playoffs. And don't get me wrong, Stuart Skinner definitely stepped up at times. But I mean, is Stuart Skinner going to be able to make a run like that in the playoffs again? I doubt it. And like,
Yeah.
is he that viable of an option for them moving forward? I don't really know, but that might be something the Oilers have to invest in the future. But yeah, I think they still got better though. I think Jeff Skinner
Yeah.
is just such a good ad. I love that ad for them, even though I
Yeah.
really dislike the Oilers. But yeah, I think they got better, and I honestly having them finish, I'd say either first or second in the Pacific, but I have them finishing second just because I'm a Flames fan.
Yeah.
Um, and I could see them possibly not getting past the second round, but we will see. It could be McDavid's year. He might be out for a Stanley Cup
Out
this
for
year.
blood. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
all it takes is 1 year. Like they always say, you got to lose big to win big.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Panthers lost big and won big. So maybe throw some money on the Oilers. I'm not going to because I don't trust them. But I mean, I definitely think this team got better, and I think they're actually going to win the Pacific Division this year. And that's because I'm a
Interesting.
Sharks fan and I can't pick who your number one is. You guys could probably get the hint there. They rhyme with Schmagus. So, uh, yeah, I have them finishing first. The Pacific again is not. It's just not the strongest division right now. I think it will be in a couple years, but on to the next, another Pacific Division team, the Los Angeles Kings. We can keep this pretty quick. I don't know that there's really much to talk about this team other than they added Darcy Kemper. got rid of Pierre-Luc Dubois, which I think was very necessary for them. Um, I think Darcy Kemper's a good addition for them. I think goalie was always something that's kind of not plagued them since they got rid of Quick, but they just haven't been able to really figure it out.
Yeah.
Uh, I just don't know if he's the answer, and I feel like this team is just fighting to stay alive in the
Yeah.
playoffs, and sometimes you just gotta drop the wheels on the wagon and rebuild, but they're not
I
doing that yet.
I so agree. And um, just seeing this team on paper, it's surprising that they made the playoffs.
Yeah.
I feel like Kopitar, there's got to be a time he starts aging. I mean, he's what I want to say 37. I mean, is he?
I think
I
he's
feel like he's
37.
close. Yeah, I think he's 37. He's close to his 40s. He's getting old, which is crazy. Kopitar, I mean, he's been playing my whole life, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got Fiala and Byfield. They're still pretty young. I think, honestly, Byfield will probably take a pretty big step. He could possibly
Yeah.
take a step into kind of their number one center. Right now, I'd say he's like, their second center. I feel like they're lacking on the defense side of things after, Kopitar, or not Kopitar, Drew Doughty. I do think that they have Brant Clark, which he had a really good year in the AHL
Yes.
last year, so he could
Yep.
really break out. But besides that, I mean, besides Byfield and Clark, and I mean, you could even throw Kaliev in there. There's not too much to get excited for. I mean, Kenot, you could maybe throw him in there as excited, but I just don't think they have the strongest D core. I don't think they have the most powerful offense at all.
No.
I mean, I feel like they kind of remind me of a team of like the Flames right now. They're very
Yeah.
mediocre, just not very good. But I have them having a really bad season just because they can't figure out their goaltender trouble. And I
Yep.
actually have them finishing last in the Pacific. So I think they got worse just because they did nothing this year. So
Yeah. No, that's fair. I think so too. Um, just it's hard for me to find good things to say about the Kings, but Brant Clark, I think, is gonna be a good addition for them, depending on how many games he plays this year. But overall, I mean, I think getting rid of Pierre-Luc Dubois was a necessary move there, so I'll give them props on that. But other than that, there's just nothing really to super be excited for as a Kings fan. Granted, I am biased, so I'll admit that. I'll wear that, but I just don't see it to be super exciting. Um, I have them finishing at where did I have them? I had them finishing at 4 actually. To slip in that wild card, I just don't see, maybe I'll promote Calgary a little bit. I think they could possibly get that wild card spot. But LA, I don't know. It's really tough to say. I'm gonna switch my statement. I'm gonna switch my mind. Put Flames at 4 and Kings at 5 in the
let's go.
division. But next, Minnesota Wild. Again, nothing too crazy from them. They did re-sign Brock Faber, which is an absolute must need for them. 8 by 8, I want to
Yeah.
say. 8 years, 8 mil. Great player there. Um, this team's tough. I mean, they didn't make the playoffs this last year. I don't think they have all the pieces, but I mean, what else are they really missing?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's going to really depend on their first line. I think Marco Rossi takes a big step this year, and I think he
Mhm.
really
Yeah.
solidifies himself as that number one center. I mean, Eriksson Ek has solidified himself definitely as a top six player for them. I think Matt Boldy as well. So I don't think they have too much more to prove. I think Matt Boldy could have a very good year.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think Marco Rossi, that's going to be a big year for him. I think Brock Faber is also going to just continue his success out there. They're besides Brock Faber though, they're kind of slim on D. I mean, they got Spurgeon and but they still got the go back there. I mean, they got Marc Andre Fleury back there, which is wild that
Yeah.
he's still
I know.
playing. But yeah, I mean, I think that the Wild, like, it's hard to say if they got better or worse. I'm just gonna say worse because I feel like they could have maybe made a bigger splash in free
Yeah.
agency or could have made some trades to kind of tool their team because it's not like last year was like the most successful year for them. Um, but I do think they're gonna bounce back this year. I think Kaprizov is gonna have a really, really good year. Not like he didn't last year, but I see that Minnesota makes the playoffs in the wild card spot, either that first or second wild card spot. I'd probably say first. I think they have a strong they have a s they're gonna have some strong runs that's gonna put them in a playoff position, and they're gonna be able to actually make the playoffs this year because they barely missed the playoffs this year, if I remember
Yeah.
right. But I don't know, what do
Yeah.
you think? Do you think they got better or worse?
I think that they got worse in the sense, I mean, it's really tough. Like, I do think that they do have most of their pieces. It's just a matter of they can't figure it the hell out. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I don't know what is missing for them, but I think overall, I think their team got a tad bit worse. It's really hard to say though, like that they got worse. I can confidently say the Kings got worse. I cannot confidently say that the Minnesota Wild got worse. Um, but did you give your where they're at in the standings?
yeah, I said they were gonna be finished 4th in the Central, and then they'll make it in with a wild card spot, so,
Okay. I am gonna have them at the 5 spot. I think they're gonna miss the playoffs again.
okay.
Until they shake some things up, maybe if there's a deadline that could, a deadline move that can shift this lineup. But I don't think that, I think like you said, I think Kaprizov needs to have a big year in order for them to move up at all for me. But it's also for me, it's not that Minnesota I think is gonna finish 5th. It's the teams that I have above that I think are just gonna do better than them.
Yeah.
So moving on, and this is one of those teams, the Nashville Predators. They arguably, not arguably, obviously had the biggest splash in free agency, signing Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, and also Brady. How do you say his last name? Skagey?
Pretty Ski
Good.
J?
Ski
Ski J?
Brady
J? I don't know.
Ski Steven
Maybe.
Stamkos, and Jonathan Marchessault. Huge additions for this Nashville team. A team last year that made the playoffs. I didn't think they were going to. And, they've got every piece in the world that they need at this point. They've got Roman Yossi, got Philip Forsberg. They now have Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault. They have UC Saros in net, and they have a pretty solid defensive core, I would say. Um,
Mhm.
so off the bat, I think this is a pretty easy say here. This team got better. They did lose Askarov in that trade to the Sharks, which I'm excited for, but they did lose Askarov. Um, but at the same time, you got UC Saros, so it's kind of a no brainer there that you know take UC Saros. He's there for you, and it's the team. Like you need him, and you kind of have to lose Askarov in that position, but it is what it is. It's hockey. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think the Preds really took a step forward this offseason. I mean, Askarov, that's tough. They lost that younger prospect and whatnot. I mean, I think he's NHL ready. I think he's gonna be a big addition to the Sharks, but they still got Saros back there, he's an incredible goalie. Um, I mean, not even talking about their forwards yet, but I mean, the fact they got Roman Yossi and CJ, and then I mean, that's gonna be such a good top line. I think their defense is a little bit shaky, which is kind of a concern. I mean, they got Alex Carrier, or Carrier, and I mean that's about it. Jeremy Lazone, if you even would
Yeah.
say he's that good, so that's kind of a worry for me. But their forwards are, I mean, their top 9 looks really, really good. I think Evangelista is going to have a really good year. He had a good year last year. I think he's even going to take a step forward this year. Might even slot in with like Marchessault here and there for that second line. But I mean, the fact that they got Stamkos, um, and Marchessault on that, top 6, at least a top 9, that's going to really make them. I think that's going to put them over the hump, and I think they're going to have an outstanding year. I actually have them finishing first in the Central, which
Mm.
gonna be it's gonna be a bold take of me to say this, but or pardon me, not first, second. Wow, I just
Okay.
jumped the gun on saying that. But yeah, I think they finished second, which is a big improvement as their wild card spot last year. Um, I think they could kind of go back and forth with Colorado, who's going to be first, but I do see Nashville having a really strong year. I think they're going to be kind of the talk of the town at the beginning of the season, just saying, damn,
Yeah.
look at how good these moves were in the offseason.
Yeah.
I think Stamkos is going to really benefit from a change of scenery too. I don't think he was like declining a lot in Tampa, but I just feel like he was kind of starting to get outshined by Kucherov and Braden Point.
Yeah, no,
Those two
for sure.
players especially, which sometimes you take players away away from better players. I mean, Matt Tkachuk is a great example, and they really just step it up. I mean, they show
Yeah.
their true value. So I think that's going to be sort of the situation in Nashville. But where do you have them ending at?
I have the Nashville Predators at 4, slipping in again.
Okay,
Um, I do have a lot of hope for this team, and I think they're gonna do well. They definitely got better on paper, but I part of me thinks this might be a little Pittsburgh Penguins situation all over again, where,
it could
you
be.
know, they get Erik Karlsson, and it's just this, and we gotta say this is an aging team. Steven Stamkos is 33, I think, 31, one of the 2.
That
Um,
is true.
so, you know, that might be a little bit of a bolder take by me to say that they're gonna turn into the next Penguins, how they were last year, but I just I don't know. I need to watch them play to really be confident in them. You make a good point though, saying that Stamkos, like Braden Point and Kucherov kind of take away from Stamkos's greatness. Um, but again, I need to see it. Prove me wrong, Steven Stamkos. Prove me that I'm a dipshit. Please do, because I'll give you all the flowers in the world. But I think fourth, and you could maybe put him in at 3 too. But my number 3 team is going to be kind of crazy. So, but moving on to the San Jose Sharks, I think that anyone with 2 eyes, 2 ears, a nose, and a brain could say that this team got better after last year and what happened. Um, like I said, there's not much room when you're at the bottom. The only way is up, and that's where the Sharks are going. Adding Tyler Toffoli, Jake Wallman on defense, Askarov, and not to mention Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith now joining the roster. Um, and honestly, more rookies I think are going to make the move up. I think Quentin Musty is another name that people should get familiarized with. I think he's shown really well. I've been watching the rookie camp for the Sharks a lot, and he's been doing some really good things. He's a huge guy. I think he's gonna be playing with Will Smith on that second line, come the regular season if he makes that roster. And I think the both of them
Interesting.
together just looked. They had like such good chemistry together. And this was the case even last training camp, I want to say. Um, so we'll see. I mean, like I said, I think this team is better on paper, but ultimately at the end of the day, this is not a playoff team. Um, crazy things have happened. I think I'm excited for Askarov to play, but I just don't. I think there's still some time needed. I don't think our defensive core is where we want to be at all yet. Um, adding Sam Dickinson in the draft, which I don't know if he's going to be playing come opening night. Um, Mari Ferraro is a solid defenseman we've got, but Jake Wallman's a good addition. But outside of that, it's nothing super crazy. But like I said, it's going to be a fun team for me at least to watch. Um, and I'm excited to watch Sharks hockey again, which I haven't said in probably 4 years. So, but what do you think about everything that's been going on this offseason with the Sharks?
Yeah, I think the Sharks took a big step this offseason. Obviously, getting the first overall pick, but Will Smith is going to be NHL ready, and I think adding to Foley, that's going to be a veteran presence and a goal scoring
Mhm.
presence, which I
Yeah,
think they're going to really benefit off of that. And I think that's just going to grow those younger players and that young core that much more.
yeah,
I think their defense is still lacking a lot,
yeah,
which that's like, I think that's the next thing on the Sharks agenda to like really hammer in on that rebuild, which is going to be interesting how they do that. But I think Askarov is a big, humongous add to them. I think that's going to be their goalie for the next future. Maybe he's then another Nabokov for them.
yeah.
But I think
Hopefully,
the Sharks really took a step forward. I don't think they're going to finish last. I'm
yeah,
optimistic about that. Um, but yeah, they got better. I still have them finishing at the 7 spot in the Pacific, um, just above LA. So,
yeah. As do I. I have
and
them at 7.
they could maybe sneak into that 6th spot where Anaheim is too. But
Yeah,
I think they're gonna take a
you
step forward, and it's gonna be better hockey in San Jose, and hopefully more
that
people come
too.
to the games and whatnot.
I think it'll be a better brand of hockey to watch. They may lose by a lot or not by a lot, but they may lose like 7-5, but at least they scored 5 goals, you know? So can't be too upset. I'm excited. But next team, which we can we're already at the hour mark, so we're gonna blow through some of these teams. Seattle
Yeah.
Kraken adding Brandon Montour and Chandler Stevenson. Brandon Montour's a great ad. I loved him on
Yeah.
Florida, watching him play for Florida. I think he's a great defenseman. But the Seattle Kraken are just in this weird little state, I think, that I just don't know how to fix them. I think Brandon Montour is a good addition to that team. I don't know if I want to give them a better team, though, than last year. I mean, they really weren't great last year, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're definitely a better team just because Brandon Montour, I feel like he's stepped into his prime right now. And I think Stevenson's going to work in really well with just like their build of their roster. He's a little bit more of a defensive forward. I think Seattle is going to be one of the lowest scored on teams this year. Just because, I mean, they have a really solid, um, just defensive style team all around, but also, I mean,
Yeah.
Grubauer is a good goalie as well, and Joey
Yeah, he
Decor.
is.
It's a pretty good goalie tandem, I'd say. But I mean, even their defense, I mean, Adam Larson, Brandon Montour, Jamie Oleskiak, Vince Dunn. I mean, those are their top four is solid. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a really dangerous top four. I would say necessarily offensively, but defensively, I mean, that's going to be hard to score on those guys. I do think Shane Wright takes a pretty big
Mm,
step forward, and
yep.
Tolvanen. Those are two young players in their organization that really do something this year, even Ty Cartier. So I think this year is going to be interesting for the Kraken. They could also barely sneak in, but I think that they got better on the offseason just with those two additions, very smart additions. And that's pretty sweet. They got Montour, especially.
Yeah. No, I agree. I
But
think I'll give them slightly better than last year. But
yeah,
where do you have them finishing?
I have them finishing at the 5 spot, so just barely missing the playoffs. They could maybe, I hate to say it, they could maybe be interchangeable with Calgary for that 4 spot.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Seattle is gonna finish. Oh, this is tough, but I think we're gonna finish last in the Pacific.
Interesting.
Though they do have you know, solid defensive core, I just don't think that they're gonna figure it out this year, in what they're doing. I could be very wrong on that. I'm not, holding that like I believe this is true. Um, I just don't see anything special out of that team necessarily. I mean, I kind of forgot about Shane Wright coming up. We'll see. And I think honestly, Matty Beniers is going to get out. He had a bit of a sophomore slump, I think, last year. Um, following up the great rookie year that he had, it's always tough to do. So I think he'll bounce back this year, and I think he'll do well. Um, but I could see them. I'll give them 7, and maybe Sharks being 8. I could even give them 6, swapping with Anaheim. But I think Seattle 8. I just don't think they're going to figure it out this year. Next team, St. Louis Blues. I'm going to be really quick about this one. I think that they got worse. The Blues are, again, just in this situation where I don't really know what they're doing. They're just like hanging on to trying to be competitive. Um, they didn't make the playoffs last year. They did add Broberg and Holloway, or Broberg and Holloway were offered an offer sheet for 2 years. They also got Ryan Suter, but I don't really see that as being a huge ad for them. I just don't know what the Blues did this offseason. They're just this middle of the pack team that just needs to be better. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the Blues, I don't see anything special coming from them. I don't see them being the worst in the Central. Um, but I do think Broberg, that's a big ad. I'd say they just got slightly worse just because I think teams in their division got better.
Yeah,
Um,
good point.
so that's the only reason why I'd say they're worse. I do think Broberg and Holloway are good odds. Holloway's all right, but Broberg, I think, is going to really shine and given a chance now. He was kind of down the depth chart in Edmonton, and now he's got more of like a top 4 role. It's looking like. Who knows if he'll crack that top 4, but um, Broberg could be something really special and be a humongous steal for the Blues if that ends up working out. So
Yeah.
I don't see a lot going on there. I think that they're going to be very mediocre. I have them finishing in sixth in the division, though, just
Yeah,
above
St.
Chicago.
St. Louis, I have them above Chicago, but at 7 because I have Chicago at 8 for me. So I think they're going to be starting that rebuild here soon. Next team, brand new team without a team name, the Utah Hockey Club. Um, I think you and I are going to differ here, and I'm excited to talk about it. Mikhail Sergachev, John Marino, and Ian Cole are their additions this offseason, as well as Tij Ginla, which I don't think he is going to be playing coming opening roster. I don't know any pick outside of like 4. Even I mean, really, just the first overall pick is the only player that's like usually solidified to make opening night roster. But Utah Hockey Club, I think overall, I mean, I think this team got better in the sense that they have a lot of young pieces that are developing. Clayton Keller, obviously their front man, Logan Cooley, who I think is going to have an awesome year this year. Um, who else am I thinking of? Thinking of one other person. Um, but what do you think of this team?
Yeah, I think they got better with the Sergachev, um, especially Sergachev. I feel like they were lacking on the defensive side of things. They also got Valimaki back there, John Marino, Ian Cole. So I think their defense has really stepped up. I don't think it's going to really do too much. I think their goalie tandem is really bad. I don't think Connor Ingram's anything special.
Yeah.
And then I just hate to see it. I mean, besides Clayton Keller and Logan Cooley, there's not a lot to get too excited for on this forward group. I mean, I've seen a lot of people saying Barrett Hayton's going to really break out. Michelli might break out. Josh Doan might break out. But, I mean, they're kind of in a weird situation, almost like Anaheim in a way. Like they have a lot of good, promising young prospects. But I really think that on paper, they're worse than Chicago. I think Chicago has a little bit stronger of a roster. Also, they have Bedard. Um, but I see, them kind of bouncing back and forth with Chicago. I actually have them finishing last in the Central. I do think they got better, but I don't really. I think there's other teams in the Central that got better or just have more solid NHL experience. I think it's going to take a couple more years for the Utah Yetis, whatever the hell they're going to be a better team. I think once Iginla breaks out, that's going to be when maybe the start
Yeah.
of that. And who knows? That might be this season. Maybe it's next, but whenever that happens, I think they're going to be something special. So yeah, got them finishing last. Where do you have them at?
I have them finishing 3rd in the Central. They're making the
Wow.
playoffs. Utah Hockey Club, it's a new team, it's a new area. They got fans now. They have the support of a whole city instead of like a college campus that likes them. No. No hate to you, Arizona fans. I feel bad for you that you lost your team, but I think this Utah team, like I said, I think this is me gambling in the sense that I'm calling them to finish 3rd in the Central. Um, I think everything is gonna go right for them, and it needs to. Just like I said with the Flames, I just think that this team is gonna click. This year, they've been on some weird runs where they'll do really well in the regular season, then they'll suck really bad. So I think if they can put some strings together of doing really well, maybe some good home stands where, they've got a full packed house rooting for them, um, they'll be looking forward to. So I don't know. I mean, I think overall this team definitely did get better. I think Sergachev's a big need on their defensive side. Um, but again, we're gonna really have to see how these players break out. I think Dylan Gunther is a player to look out for if he does. I don't know if he's gonna be playing too much this year, but if he does, I think he's a name to look out for. And like you said, Josh Doan too. I think he's going to be, maybe fighting for his dad and the restitution of the Arizona Coyotes. But that is what I think. 3 more teams left. We'll kind of try our best to keep it up. Vancouver Canucks adding Jake DeBrusk, but they did lose um, Elias Lindholm.
Yeah,
Um,
that's tough.
I think this team. It's hard to say if they got better or worse here because they do. Man, What do you think?
I think they got
I think.
worse. Just because Lindholm, they gave up
Yeah.
so much for Lindholm. They gave up a
Yeah.
first,
True.
one of their best defensive prospects, which I love. Hunter Brusewicz is with the Flames now. I just don't know if DeBrusk and Daniel Sprong are going to be able to slot in what Elias Lindholm was.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big ask right off the bat from those two younger players. So I think they got worse. Do I think it's going to really affect them too much? I think that they still have a really good decor. They got a great goalie. I mean, I still see them finishing within a division spot, so I put them at 3 in the Pacific. Um, but yeah, I think they just got a little bit worse because I mean, shit, last year they won the Pacific. I'm gonna say so.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they got a little worse, but like you said, I think they're still gonna finish, um, in a good spot. I have them finishing 3rd in the Pacific as well. So I think they're it's hard to say they got worse, but like you said, they did give up a lot for Lindholm, and I think honestly that was just a push for the Stanley Cup. I think they're trying to make their case after the season
Definitely.
they had, not this last year, but the year before that. They really needed it. And they have Quinn Hughes, so it's really hard to say that this team's going to be any worse than they were last year. So I think 3rd in the Pacific is a decent spot for them. Um, Up next, the Vegas Golden Knights. Golden Knights lost a good amount, gained a little bit. Victor Olofsson, Erika Schmid, and Alexander Holtz were their additions, which I really like Alexander Holtz for them. Um, he's a good young player, which seems like this Vegas team is missing. They just have a bunch of people past their primes. Um, Also getting rid of Logan Thompson in the middle of the draft when we were there as he's signing autographs,
Yeah, that was
and
crazy.
that was crazy. And then Jonathan Marchessault as well. Losing him, I think, is maybe not on paper the biggest thing. And I get hockey's a business; these teams are business. Their mission is to win a Stanley Cup. Um, but to lose it in the fashion that they did with Marchessault, he wanted to stay, and they just didn't even offer him anything. It's just like really it's really kinda sad, honestly, like, just to see especially
Classic
for
Vegas move.
Marchessault. Yeah, classic Vegas move. For Marchessault, like, someone who just really did not have an amazing career up until he joined the Golden Knights and then won the Conn Smythe for them, and you just throw him out on the street, and, Nashville took him in with open arms, and I think he's gonna do great for them, but I think this team and it's gonna continue to happen, I think this team got worse. I think that, they won their Stanley Cup, but what's really gonna be a to show if they're truly a good team or not is if they can keep this up. And they've constantly traded away these younger picks for, you know, or these draft picks for players past their prime and trying to milk out as much as they can out of them. And who knows? They still have the LTIR they can play this year. Who knows? At the deadline, they could pull out some crazy little stint and their team is all of a sudden back again. So we'll see. I don't it's hard to say that the Knights are gonna be bad because like I said, that trade deadline could change everything. But what do you think?
Um, I think they got worse, a little bit worse I don't know. It's kind of hurt. It's hard to say. They got worse this offseason right now. I think for the future, they got a lot better. The fact that they were able to swing Alexander Holtz, I mean,
Yeah.
blows my mind. I mean, he's a really, really promising young prospect. I don't know why the NHL let the Vegas Golden Knights get Alex Holtz. I think he's going to have a really big breakout year with them. He
Yeah.
could be at least in the top 9, possibly the top 6, which he was kind of struggling to get that ice time in New Jersey. I think Victor Olofsson is also going to have a really strong year. Their defense is crazy. I mean, the fact that they have Hannafin, Pietrangelo, and Shea Theodore is like, that's kind of nuts. I mean, as long as they can keep it up with Aiden Hill, um, this team's gonna be back. I think Vegas kind of had that off year last year. I honestly have to see them having a really strong year this year, winning a lot in the regular season, and I think they're gonna have a pretty deep run in the playoffs as well. Classic Vegas, but I think they bounce back really hard. I think those additions, especially Alex Holtz, are going to be huge for them. I actually have them finishing first in the Pacific. So
Mm, okay. Yeah, I have them finishing second, so I think they're still gonna have a good year. Um, and yeah, Alexander Holtz, I agree with. Great addition. We'll see if they trade him away, though. I'm curious if Alexander Holtz stays with the Knights. They have this thing where they'll get these young prospects and then tool them away.
yes, I
So
feel like
we'll
they'll
see if he
stay.
stays. Yeah, I think so too. Last team on here, the Winnipeg Jets. Um, Gonna be quick about this one. They got worse. I really do. I mean, last year was just kind of crazy to me how everything went down. I mean, they had a really good regular season, and then did they lose in the first round to the?
Yeah, they lost in the first round. I mean, they had the Vezina winner, and
Yeah,
Hellebuyck went silent in the playoffs.
yeah,
So
did not play
you
well.
know, gonna be interesting to see how the Jets play this year. I don't think they're gonna be as good as last year. I have them missing the playoffs just barely. They still have a decent team. I think their defense is lacking extremely. I mean, their best players, I'd say Josh Morrissey or Pionk on defense, which is
Yeah,
nothing too crazy. They still got Shifley, they still got Kyle Connor, Ehlers, which Ehlers wants out. But besides that, I mean, this year could be really, really tough. I know Hellebuck is going to continue playing really good for them back there. So I think he's what keeps them afloat and maybe kind of in that contention for a playoff spot. But I am guessing, they just barely missed the playoffs just because, yeah, man, I feel like they didn't do enough. They lost probably their most promising prospect, Rucker McGrody, for Brandon Yeager, which he is good. But
yeah.
I think Toffoli and Monahan losing those players, those were just like really good glue guys, and their bottom six are really gonna suffer now. Because I mean, outside of Adam Lowry and Niederreiter, it's pretty slim down there. So uh, yeah, I have them finishing at the 5 spot. Where do you have them at?
I have them at the sixth spot, so not much
Okay.
further down a little bit. I just don't think they make the playoffs this year. So we'll see. Again, this is our predictions at the beginning of the year for the West Coast. So it's really, you know, tough to call anything at this point. This is just from what we see floating around and what, we think is going to happen. But I think it'll be an interesting season this year, especially with, at least for our teams getting a little bit better, at least some hope to watch. I know for the Sharks, like there's at least some reason to watch them and be excited about it other than like wanting them to tank. I think Utah Hockey Club is going to be fun to watch and follow. I think there's going to be a whole lot of crazy news stuff again this season, like there was last season. And we're going to bring it to you guys this coming season. So if you're new, subscribe to us, like the video. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Look up Good Old Hockey Podcast. You'll find us there. Um, and yeah, be sure to keep everything, we're going to keep you guys in the loop this season. We'll be back here pretty soon to weekly. If it's not next week, then it will be the weeks after that. And NHL hockey's almost back. We've got, I think, what, 22 days, 20 days left till, I mean, I want to say preseason starts within the next couple weeks, next couple
Yeah.
days, honestly. So, but yeah, anything else before we get out of here?
No, man, go Bison.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a good season, and I'm excited for it moving forward.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear any, just crazy stuff that goes on these next couple
Definitely.
this next season. So, all right, guys. Well, if you haven't already, be sure to go check out our website, settledown.store. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram at Good Old Hockey Podcast. We are at, I think, 570 followers. We'll try to set a goal by like All Star break or even like Winter Classic or something so we can try to get you guys to follow us there. But with that being said, we will see you guys next time and peace out.